Hi everyone, this is HM&S video number 55 and you are most welcome for it. We're going to start talking about logical functions in Excel. Now, logical functions are functions like the if function, the ifs function with S. Then we have many is functions. There are actually very many logical functions in Excel and we are going to explore them. Now, the engine of all the logical functions in Excel is actually the logical test. That's why today we are going to talk about logical formulas or logical tests in Excel. Now, if you understand how to do logical tests very well in Excel, it will actually be very easy for you to use logical functions in Excel. Let's switch on to Excel and we dive deeper into how to do logical tests. Now, logical tests are sometimes called logical formulas. Logical formulas or logical tests actually returns only two possible results called logical values. Sometimes they are called Boolean values, and those are either true or false. So when you do a logical test, you either get true or false. So you get one of the two logical values. Now when you are doing logical tests, these are the comparison operators that you can use. The first one here is equals to. You're comparing whether one thing is equals to the other one. Like for example, you can say, is the sale for January equals to the sale for February? Then you get either true or false. That one is actually a logical test. So you can use greater than, you can use greater than or equals to. Now when you're using greater than or equals to, you use two different symbols. You use the greater than symbol and then the equals to symbol. So the equals to always come last. So it's greater than or equals to. When you put equals to and then greater than, it will not work. So it should be greater than or equals to. You can also use less than. Then the same applies to less than or equals to. The equals to sign follows the less than sign. So you put the less than sign and then the equals to. And then finally, not equal to. Now this is how we do not equal to. You combine the less than or equals to sign together. And the less than symbol needs to come first, followed by the greater than symbol. So it should be exactly the way you are seeing it here. Now before we start doing examples, we need to remember this. Logical formulas or logical tests are not case sensitive. That means whether you use the uppercase or capital letters or lowercase, that is small letters, logical functions will see it as one. Like for example, the capital T is equals to the small t. That's what we mean by logical formulas are not case sensitive. Now let's scroll down and we start seeing our first example so that we understand exactly what we mean by logical formulas. We shall see how we can do it on text later on this video, but let's start by seeing how we can do logical formulas on numbers. Now we have this table here. It has the months, the debit column, and then the credit column. Now this is actually something that's very common in accounting. The debit needs to be equals to the credit for it to be in balance. So let's start by getting the total for debits and credit. So I'm going to click on this cell and do equals to sum. Tab to select it. I'm simply going to highlight the values like this. When I hit Control Enter and then I copy it to the side like this, you can see the total is looking the same. But in Excel, you need to be very careful. Sometimes because of number formatting, some numbers might look the same when in actual sense they are not the same. So for you to prove and be sure that the two numbers are the same, you need to check it using a logical test. So I'm going to click on this cell and we check it using a logical test. Now all formulas in Excel starts with equal sign. So equals to. So we are going to check, is this number, which is the total for debit, equals to, we are putting the second equal sign, equals to this number, which is the total for credit. So let's hit enter and we see we are getting true. So that means this total is actually equals to this total. But guess what? If I come here, double click, then I come here and add 0.4. Then when I hit enter, you can see that the display of the numbers are looking the same. Even the two totals are looking as if they are the same. But when you check it using a logical test, enter, you can see we are seeing false. That means this total is actually not equal to this total because of the 0.4 that we have added here. So you need to be very careful. If you want to be sure that two numbers are the same, you need to do a logical test for you to prove. Let's scroll down and we see our next example. Now in this second example here, we have this table which is showing some sale agents and then the revenue generated by those sales agents. Now we have a target of $2,000, so we want to check how many of these sales agents actually met the target. So if you generated a revenue of $2,000 and above, that means you met the target. But if your revenue is less than $2,000, it means you did not meet the target. So let's click on this cell. So we are checking whether this revenue is greater than or equals to $2,000. So let's do equals to revenue. Are you greater than or equals to? So greater than or equals to needs to be typed like this. You need to type the two characters like this. The target. So this is the target. I'm going to click on the target. Now because I'm going to copy my formula down, I want the target to remain the same. So I want this cell reference not to move as I copy my formula down. So I'm going to lock it using the F4 key. So when I control enter, you can see for the first one, it's false. But when I copy my formula down, you can see for each of these, like for example here, it's exactly $2,000. And because we are doing greater than or equals to, it means the $2,000 is also inclusive. That's why we are getting true here. So we are getting true or false. When the revenue is greater than or equals to $2,000, we get true. And when it's less than $2,000, we get false. Now, when I double click this, if you want to use less than or equals to, you just put it in the middle of the two numbers and it will compare for you the two numbers and give you true or false, just exactly the way you want it. I'm not going to use all the comparison operators in this video, but this is exactly how all of them is used. You just put it in the middle of the two numbers and it will compare for you the two numbers and give you true or false depending on what you are doing. Now here we refer to our target using cell reference. But if we are sure that the target of $2,000 will not change, we can as well add code it on the formula. So let's do that. Escape. So I'm going to click on this cell and do equals to revenue. Are you greater than or equals to? Then I'm going to add code the $2,000 in. So I'm going to type 2,000. Now when I control enter and then I double click to copy my formula down, you can see we are getting the same results, but this time around we add coded the $2,000 in. Now the disadvantage of add coding numbers into your formulas like this is that when the number change, the formula doesn't update. Like for example, if we change our target from 2,000 to 2,500, when I hit enter, you can see this one where we use cell reference updated, but this one did not update. So you need to always make sure you use cell references when your number is going to change. So I'm going to control Z to leave it as 2,000. Now let's scroll down and we also see how we can do logical tests on text. Now before we even talk about doing logical tests on text, let me first scroll up a bit. Now here we have 6 comparison operators. But when you're doing logical tests on text, make sure you only use the first one which is equals to and then the last one which is not equals to. Now all these other one, the greater than or equals to, less than or equals to, all this one when you use it on text, it will not make sense. So let's scroll down and we see an example. So here we have two texts, Excel and then Excel. We want to test whether Excel is equals to Excel. So I'm going to click on this cell. So let's do equals to, is this text equals to this text? So when I hit tab, you can see it's saying true. So you can see Excel is actually equals to Excel. That's why we are getting this true. Let's also check whether this Excel is not equals to this Excel. So let's do equals to, is this text which is Excel not equals to? So you remember how we do not equals to? It is a less than, greater than symbol, just like this, not equals to this text. Now when I hit enter, it will always be the opposite of equals to. So equals to is always the opposite of not equals to. So if the equals to is true, that means the not equals to is false. So this text is actually equals to this text. That's why we are getting true for the equals to and then false for the not equals to. Now if I decide to change this, let's say to Word, and when I hit enter, you can automatically see we are getting now the opposite. Word is not equals to Excel. That's why we are getting false here for the equals to, escape, and then true here for the not equals to. Now I told you that logical formulas are not case sensitive. Let's prove that here. We have Excel here, which is written in capital letters, and we also have this Excel here, which is written in small letters. So let's check whether this Excel written in capital letters is actually equals to this Excel, which is written in small letters. So I'm going to click on this cell and do equals to, is this Excel equals to this Excel? So when I hit tab, you can see we are seeing true. So this one is actually equals to this one. As long as the spelling is the same, the case doesn't matter. So let's also do not equals to. So I'm going to do equals to, is this Excel not equals to this Excel? When I hit enter, you can see we are getting false because this Excel is actually equals to this Excel. The case doesn't matter. What if you have more than one word? Like for example, we have a marker layer here. Is it equals to this marker layer? So let's see. I'm going to click on this cell and do equals to, is this equals to this? So when I hit enter, you can see we are getting true. Even if it's having more than one word, as long as the spelling and the arrangement are the same, the logical test will always give us true. Now what if the spelling is the same, but the arrangement is not the same? Like for example, we have here a marker layer, and here we have layer a marker. Are the two the same? Let's check using Excel. So I'm going to click on this cell. We are doing another logical test. Equals to, is this equals to this? When I hit enter, it is false. Now if the arrangement is actually not the same, the logical test will always return for us false, meaning this one is actually not equals to this one. Now let's see what happens if you do a logical formulas on text using this other comparison operators. So I'm going to click on this cell. When you do equals to, is this Excel greater than this Excel? First of all, it doesn't make sense to say a text is greater than another text, but let's see what it will give us. So when I hit tab, you can see it's saying false. Even if it's delivering for us false, this false doesn't actually make sense. Now let's also do this one. This one we are going to use greater than or equals to. So let's see what will happen. So I'm going to do equals to, is this Excel greater than or equals to this Excel? Now when I hit enter, you can see it's giving us true. It's saying this Excel is greater than this Excel. Now I guess that's because we have used equals to here. That's why it's actually giving us escape true. Now if I come here and double click, if instead of just greater than, let's change this to, I should have used less than before, but let's do less than or equals to. Now when I do less than or equals to and hit enter, you can see it's also giving me true. So it's saying this Excel is actually less than or equals to this Excel, escape. Then at the same time, it's saying it's true that this Excel is actually greater than or equals to this Excel. So it doesn't make any sense at all. So when you're doing logical tests on text, make sure you use only these two operators, equals to or not equals to. The rest of the comparison operators will not make sense on text. Yeah, that is it for this particular video. Now what we have learned today is going to be very important when we are talking about how to use logical functions in Excel. So if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. And if you found this video interesting, give it a like and then you share it with your friends. This is a playlist that's having all the videos about logical functions that we have talked about. You can click on it, then you go and watch them. Until next video, HM&S video number 56, then we meet again. Thank you.